Hello everybody, Average Gamer here. Welcome to a honest review. This episode, we're going to do an honest review of War on the Sea. And I think that's the name of the game. Yeah, War on the Sea. There we go. Yeah. So, I'm not really going to do much gameplay, just because we're going to get into a few things that I have issues with the game itself. This is going to be a long video. It's going to be only like a 5-minute video. And first off, I want to say it is a fun game. It is a good game. A little expensive for what it is. And that is a game to me that feels like it's in early access. There are a few things in the game that make sense, and there are a few things in the games that do not. First off, AntiSubmarine Warfare is I have to admit, is really good. I have built up little groups of anti-submarine warfare hunting, little ASW surface action groups with an Atlanta light cruiser and usually about 2 or 3 destroyers running in circular pattern. And oh boy, is it fun. The 3 destroyers go out and hunt down that sub and just bang away on their sonar to grab it. And then they just sit there and just bang away with them on their with their depth charges, bring it to the surface, and then the Atlanta just destroys it. I'll always control the Atlanta, and I'll keep the Atlanta abreast of the sub. So I'm always sitting beside the sub with all the guns trained on it manually, just waiting for it to surface. And it is fun. The anti-submarine warfare is good, which makes sense. These guys are the guys that help make Cold Waters. Them and I think it's Triassic, the guys that are also doing was it naval warfare in the Missile Age or something like that, which I'm also looking forward to quite a lot. Yeah, anti-submarine warfare in this game is amazing. The spotting mechanics could use some help. It's very strange the way the spotting mechanics work when you're actually in a tactical battle. I understand now this scale as to why this is just the Battle of the Coral Sea, or aka Guadalcanal. The reason is because there is a lot of micromanagement. Right now, I've sent back the majority of my fleets to go re-equip and rearm back down here, the New Hebrides. Like you can see, Task Force 4, so a whole bunch of destroyers. Task Force 3, whole bunch of destroyers. These are my anti-submarine warfare groups. You notice the lack of an Atlanta at the moment. Atlanta may have been sunk, and all I could afford was to replace it with as a destroyer. But I digress. No, you'll even notice I have a carrier action group with 4 destroyers. Which gets me into the next thing that I have a problem with. Number 1, the supply system. I don't know how it works. I get replenished on some, but not everything. I attempt to do one thing with supply and then nothing else happens with the other. It's very strange. How to build up facilities and things like that to me is very strange. Like engineers. You consume engineers by building things. So right now this has 2,000 troops on it and 6,000 supply. New Hebrides has 6,000 troops and 2,000 supply. I just recently sent these 2 fleets over there. Cool and all. I don't know how to build things up. I got my engineers. I used my 200 engineers to build an airport. And then since then, I haven't got any engineers. And it's been like 3 or 4 days. No idea what goes on. Like if it's a monthly thing, a weekly thing. I haven't hit the end of August yet. So that was the first thing that I really don't understand. I'm going to have to probably figure that out. The next thing that I think that really kind of bothers me is the cooldown timers. So if you have a group, for example, one of my subs up here, Task Force 12. Sorry, this is actually one of my Oh, sorry, this is where I put my Atlantis. They didn't get sunk. It's a North Carolina battleship, two New Orleans class heavy cruisers, and then 4 Atlantis. Um, that's why it's two, 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 and 2 destroyers, because it was 2 destroyers and an Atlanta. But the grouper here, for example, if it gets detected and engaged a fleet, I can't use that sub again for a while. And that kind of sucks. Don't like that mechanic. Number 2, the timer when it comes to aircraft. So, for example, if I wanted to launch aircraft off the USS Enterprise, I can go to launch aircraft and launch. I can launch all of these, but there is like a 2-hour gap between the launching of each of these aircraft, which doesn't make sense. I should be able to launch all of them at any given time, unless it's at nighttime, which makes sense. I am not a fan of that, because I've tried to do multiple strikes against the fleet that was off of Guadalcanal and Tulagi here, aka the Florida Islands, but I had to send in the 14 Dauntless dive bombers separate. I had to send in the 4. Oh, is it the Avenger? It's Avengers, right? Yeah, so I had to send in my 12 Avengers separately than my 12 dive bombers. I also then could only send in my Wildcats were in the area, but they timed out because timer, and they weren't able to engage the surface action fleet. It was basically a couple heavy destroyers, or a couple heavy cruisers, 2 heavy destroyers, and then a whole bunch of supply ships. My plan was to have the Wildcats come in groups of 2 and strafe the cargo ships, while the Dauntless dive bombers split into one large group to go after the heavy cruisers into 2 groups of, I think it was 2 groups of 6. No, it was 2 groups of 5 were to go after. No, oh sorry, it was 6, 8. Yeah, it was 8 were going to go after the heavy cruisers. It was going to be 4 and 4. And the remaining 4, which was going to be broken up into 2 groups of 2, were going to go after the 2 destroyers. And then the Avengers were going to kind of be split up into groups of 3. 2 were going to go after the heavy cruisers, and then the other two groups were going to go after the destroyers. And then my plan was to bring in the sub after the fact and clean up anything that was left over. I couldn't do that. I could only send the Avengers. And then by the time the Avengers were sitting around loitering, ready for the Dauntless dive bombers to come to launch, they ran out of fuel and had to come back to the Enterprise and land. That's not the way it worked. I don't like that. So I'm hoping they either just remove the timer option available or whatever from everything. Number 2, the AI's accuracy is ridiculous. I don't know whether it's the AI has, because there's no difficulty setting, right? The game is just, here it is. Unless there's something I missed. But like, for example, one of their subs you'll start the mission, their sub will already have fired her torpedoes at you. So they'll fire usually spreads of 4 or 6. So you start the mission, or you start in the tactical map, the torpedoes are already coming at you. So you have to immediately hard right, hard left, whatever, just to get out of the way of the torpedoes first. I don't like that. What the AI seems to do a lot is send an aircraft at you and a sub at the same time. So you don't know if it's just the aircraft or if it's the aircraft and a sub. And that's happened to me like many times where I saw the aircraft and I'm like, I don't trust this. I've seen videos on YouTube and I made everyone make a hard right. Which brings me to my next problem, which is the micromanaging on the tactical map is just ridiculous. Having to sit there and change the ammo for each ship specifically to the target they're shooting at, no. They should pick the most proper ammo themselves. Firing HE at cargo ships and at destroyers, while firing armor piercing at cruisers, heavy cruisers, and battleships. they just automatically all start shooting AP. Doesn't matter what it's just armor piercing. And they just shoot armor piercing. Which kind of sucks. I like how you can control anti-aircraft fire. You can turn it on and off, which is good. Overall, I want to say the game definitely feels like it's in early access. The game feels like it's in the process of evolving, and there's certain things in the game that I think that are in it now that should be gone. I thought the command point system will be pretty bad. It's actually pretty good. Though I found a bug and you can manipulate it very easily because I now have 2,156 command points. Basically, the enemy spams. They have unlimited aircraft at the Guadalcanal or wherever they are. So if you just place like an Atlanta with some destroyers in a location, you could just obliterate all their aircraft, and then they just wait an hour, and then they just launch more. And it's like, okay. I actually did it over. It was over here somewhere, where I triggered them to start attacking my fleet, and I had my 2 Atlantas just sitting there, line abreast, to the airport, and just filling the sky with anti-aircraft anti-aircraft fire. And every aircraft you shoot down, it's 2 command points. So out of every time I'd finish a mission, I'd be getting 120, 130 points. And an hour later, they would just launch 12 aircraft at me again. Every hour on the hour, I'd get 12 aircraft, whether it's 12 fighters, 12 dive bombers, or 12 torpedo bombers. Every now and then, 1 or 2 would get through, or 1 or 2 would actually get their, torpedoes off, or bombs, or strafe, or whatever. But they'd miss, because I immediately would get them zigzagging. So it was super hard to hit them anyways. Every now and then they bring in a surface fleet. I would just, wait, where are you going? You hover over. That tells you how much ammo it has. Well, oh yeah, there's another glitch too. Some of my ships have almost 1,000 rounds of things. Yeah. Trying to think what else. Sub warfare is interesting. I know like the surface layers and sonar and all that stuff are properly modeled. Obviously, cold waters. Surface warfare definitely needs work. Surface warfare, in my opinion, has gotten to the point in the game right now where they need to figure out what they're going to do. Spotting is spotty, no pun intended. The building base mechanic, I understand it. I don't know how it works, like how you get the engineers and how often you get them. It really doesn't give you information. There's no difficulty setting in the game from what I understand. Like you just pick the campaign and that's it. Oh. Actually, never mind. There is an actual difficulty setting. Huh. What are the odds of that? Didn't even know it. Well, actually, let's change those back. Okay. The audio in the game, you'll notice right now there is no audio, because if you go into audio, it resets. I don't know what it is. This game is, I think this is just for show some days, because the music or even just the sound is so off the charts that I can't hear if I'm watching YouTube, for example, on one video or versus another. The museum system, pretty good. How to identify a ship is pretty hard to do. Okay, the sound's actually it down a little bit more, but I do like the fact that you can actually, I think you can shoot in this. You can. Okay. Um, I do like this. This gives you the ability of understanding what stop, please. Hold fire. Ceasefire. There we go. Yeah, so it's interesting. I'll admit. You hit this one to see where it is. Yeah. So, I mean, it's one of those things where it's interesting. Ooh. Ooh. Oh, this is the upgraded Yamato. With all the anti-aircraft stuff. Or the one where before they realize, oh, wait, airplanes? Ah, yeah. This is the one before they realize, oh, wait a minute. Airplanes are dangerous. So airplanes are dangerous. Let's check out those side guns and let's put on a whole bunch more stuff. Ooh, actually, how does this sound? Oh, you can fire the secondary guns. Ooh. That's actually pretty good. Let's fire the main guns. This is going to be loud. But yeah, so overall, good game. I said this is going to be a short video. It's only, 20 minutes long. In the end, I have to admit, it's a good game. Definitely feels like it's in early access, though. I think it needs a lot more polish. Beautiful game. Looks amazing. But definitely needs work. There's some things in it are not intuitive. I think Killerfish Games definitely has a good game, or the good beginnings of a game, because it definitely doesn't feel finished to me. It feels like there should be more campaigns. Feels like to me there should be more, definitely more campaigns. Like the missions are okay, the single battle missions, they're okay, but I think it definitely needs work. Like, the Battle of Midway is here, and the Battle of Coral Sea is here. But then the Guadalcanal campaign, yeah, it's really weird. It's like, they have so much potential. I'm waiting to see if they do like a southwestern, like a southern, southern campaign, southern Pacific campaign, where it's like northwestern Australia, Indonesia, basically to the Strait of Malacca, over to where basically halfway through Papua New Guinea, basically the other bottom left half of where the campaigns were. Then you have obviously Philippine Sea, Leyte Gulf. Will be interesting. Do the island hopping campaign through the Marshalls, and going all the way up to Iwo Jima, for example, or even having all the way to the actual Iwo Jima, Okinawa, and then have like a couple theoretical ones, like have an actual American an American naval invasion of the Kyushu's the main island. Is it Sasebo? Is the bottom left island of the four? Honshu, Kyushu. So say Ryu, but that's the character from Street Fighter. Yeah, it's Honshu, Kyushu. I can't remember what the name of the other two islands are in the home islands, but maybe do an invasion of one of those two. That would be very interesting. Having to send like a whole bunch of troops, like a couple million troops. But yeah, so the game has potential. Is it worth the money? Mm. In its current form, I honestly don't think it's worth what I paid for it. I feel like my worth of $1 is definitely different than what Killer Fish thinks the worth of $1 is, especially for something that's not, in my opinion, finished and should be classified as early access, but we'll see. With that in mind, thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next honest review. I'm Average Gamer. See you next time. Bye-bye.